welcome to Met with Reason. I run a mental health organisation and I launched it 7 years ago because my son had a psychotic breakdown like 11 years ago this year, and he got sectioned and I had to fight for his support and help. And when I saw that as a black community what we go through, because I didn't look at mental health in that way until my son got ill, I launched the organisation to offer holistic support to individuals from the African and Caribbean community. It's about therapy, it's about physical exercise, healthy eating. It's all holistic, yeah? It's all about the individual need. So that's how I launched Find a Balance. But what I just want to throw a few statistics out there. So with the black community, 6% of people from the black community are less likely to receive mental health support than 13% of their white counterparts. Can you believe that? 6%. And also, we're at higher risk of struggling with mental illnesses, but yet we don't access the support that we need. And what I've been told is that because, the services out there, the people can't resonate with it, and we come in at the more severe end because in early intervention stages, we don't really reach out for the support that we need. So this is why I've launched this podcast to talk about black mental health on a whole. So I'm going to have different guests each week. Our next one, we're going to go live. This is lovely Maria from National Base Helpline. She'll be telling you her story soon. This is Mulan, who's going to give us a personal story about her experience as a SEND child, going through the system and access and support. And this is Sabrina, who's also going to talk about It's Unique Families, which is her organisation, and her personal support for trying to get support for her SEND child. So let's go. Met with Reason. So Milan, the floor's yours.
Hi, my name is Mulan. 21 years old, and I have ADHD, and yeah. So I was diagnosed when I was 6 years old, and from then on, was going between cans to get help for me and my mum getting support. So like in primary school I was getting like one-on-one counselling sessions, and my mum was coming to them as well, and I got similar sessions in secondary school. Yeah.
How was it to get that support? Was it easy, or did your mum struggle and fight to get you the support? How was that?
I think before I was diagnosed, it was a bit of a struggle. So I think around from when I was around 2 years old, she'd been going backwards and forwards between the doctors, saying like my behavior is like it's not what how your typical like 2-year-old would behave. Like yes, there's terrible 2 years, but I was doing above and beyond basically, and yeah, she was going to parenting classes, and then eventually I was diagnosed with ADHD.
So it took 4 years. You got diagnosed at 6, did you say? So 4 years of your mum fighting to get that support.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then so that beautiful thing. Sorry. Yeah. It's living with ADHD. Not. There are times where it's more difficult. I think as a person with ADHD, you require a lot of support. You'd need a good support system just to make sure that you can do your best every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm very close with my mother.
Yeah.
And she supports me every day with this sometimes it's even like basic things like, Mulan, like, have you taken your shower today?
Yes.
Have you eaten today? Because sometimes I forget. I'm busy doing loads of other stuff. I sometimes forget to eat.
What's your symptoms like then? So then people watching get a picture of your symptoms of having ADHD.
So I find it hard to focus
Right.
easily. I tend to go between those different things. And I take medication to help me focus during the day. I have issue with time, I guess. I don't. I have issues like sometimes I tend to be late a lot. Though I try my hardest not to be. I tend to be late because yeah. I fidget a lot. I don't really stay still. I've noticed that a lot, especially when I'm nervous, and then notice I'm doing it now.
It's fine.
And I mean, there's other stuff as well. I don't always, it's not always. I don't always notice.
Yeah.
Like things I do, and other people. Sometimes I have issues, like even stuff like volume control. Sometimes I'm really loud,
Right.
and I don't notice.
You don't
myself.
realise, yeah.
Some people it's like, I'm then quieting down a bit or speak up. Sometimes I have issues with I mumble sometimes. Yeah.
So it's different things that affect you.
It affects different people differently.
But now that you're of the age that you are, an adult, how are you finding it? What are you doing now? Are you studying, working?
Yeah, so I'm currently in university.
Amazing.
But even then, so I find my ADHD causes some issues with me. So, for example, I end up procrastinating things. It's so that, I would do it later or I'll do it another time, and then I get distracted with something else, and it keeps getting pushed back and back and back.
Right.
So recently I wanted to change my university course because I was originally doing biology, and I didn't feel like as much as I liked the subject, that it wasn't really for me. And I was supposed to sort that out with the uni and change my course, something different, and through pushing it back and back and back, and until recently I've changed it, and that's supposed to, the uni started like a week ago, and it's only just like a few days ago I sorted that out. And sometimes it's hard because you feel like, why am I like this? Like, why is every day a struggle? In some way, there's something that I'm finding hard to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, other people my age, like my friends, some of them, they don't have this issue. They don't have to worry about how long is it gonna take them to get ready in the mornings, because they've gotten up and then they're sitting there like on your phone or looking at something, or sometimes it's just you're sitting staring into space daydreaming. And it's like, well, you're supposed to be ready 10 minutes ago, and you haven't even got in the shower yet. Some small things like that, and on top of that, in my university I can get access to help, but there's all these different obstacles. So in order to get the learning support plan, that makes sure I have a separate tutor that will I check in with them, let's say weekly, and have you done this? Are you on top of your work? I've been going to your lectures. To get that, I have to get my get my doctor to fill out a form, but I did that, and they're saying that they need it to be from a clinical psychiatrist, which I don't have currently, because when I turned 18, CAMS.
Yeah.
They didn't tell me the next steps after that. They were just
Right.
like, okay, you're 18 now, you know, you had the last like check-up interviews.
And goodbye,
yeah,
basically.
that's what happened
With no
to me.
follow-up or
Yeah,
support
there was
or
like,
what's
oh,
next.
you need to go find a new clinical psychologist because in order to get my medication, it needs to be reviewed. Like, back then I was doing it, is it twice a year or once a year? After a while, it was once a year. But for a while after I finished, the CAMS let me go. It was fine until recently. They were like, oh wait, you haven't had a review in a while.
It's 3 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been like, cause it's been at that time it's been like it's been like 2 years. Like you haven't had a review in a while. Like we can't because my medication is a controlled drug, so they were like, oh, you know, we need to check that out. And like, well, you need to speak to the ADHD team about this. I've been referred, and the referral is taking. It said 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that's a long time.
Very long.
Yeah, I have a friend who's recently gone through that whole process, and they're saying 20 months. So you know, this just keeps
So
getting longer and
really,
longer.
you as a child, your mum fought for 4 years for support, and then you got that support while you was in primary school and secondary school. But once you turned 18, that sort of like stopped. So you had your medication reviewed, prescribed by the GP then, because that's what you was on. But then you're saying for 2 years you didn't have that psychiatry support in order to review the medication you're taking or anything. And now they've realised you haven't had that. It's another 18 months at least waiting list before they can actually do that.
Yes.
Now this is how people get failed within the systems. So for me, as a mental health specialist, they need to do more.
Yeah.
They should have things in place to support and prevent things like this. You know that old West Indian saying, prevention is cure. Yeah, and in this case it shows you how she really has been failed, because even being at uni, like she said, the things she has to do through to get a learning support tutor, it's a lot for her to deal with. Do you know what I mean? So things should be put in place in educational establishments like university, where they give them the guidance and support to actually, you know, assess the support that they need. You know?
Yeah, it's quite ridiculous from the age of 18 that you don't actually get any help. Like, this is a lifelong term.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can assist, because what it is that effectively they would say there are systems in place, especially for certain individuals,
Yeah.
minimum in education up to the age of 25. However, accessing those services that I would say from experience, a lot of them are a facade.
Yeah.
Accessing those services can be really, really difficult. And to be fair, sometimes in institutions, the people just don't do their jobs.
Right.
Because to be fair, the initial phase from secondary school into higher education is supposed to be supported via a transitional plan, especially for majority of students who received SEND support in high school and primary school. But sometimes, a lot of the times, individuals and families, they get lost in the system. They are living every day, and other things are affecting their lifestyles, and to chase other individuals that are supposed to be in establishments, putting procedures in place standardly, are not doing that. And sometimes as a parent and carer, the facilitation to keep on sending emails or keep on calling the office and it's consistently an answer phone or nobody answer the phone, that can be mentally draining.
Yeah.
Very mentally draining.
Yeah.
And so then what happens is the institutional term carries on, and the child ends up in education, and it's ongoing, and some things end up just going slipped under the rug.
Right.
And so that support that's supposed to be in place doesn't actually get put in place, and sometimes it's not flagged or highlighted until that individual is having a difficulty.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, hold on, this should actually be happening, and that should actually be happening. But then, like you say, in the experience of Mulan, and even in my personal experience, you end up going back in somewhere in the book. You just get pushed in on a page where you're somewhere in a waiting list, and you've got to wait to access that service that effectively should have been rolling from the service you were receiving before.
Yeah, so that support, they should bridge that gap.
There's a
so
very big lapse in
important,
it for many individuals and many carers.
So you mentioned support. So let's talk about It's Unique Families. So what are you lot about?
It's Unique Families. I am the founder. My name is Sabrina, by the way. Thank you for introducing me earlier. I am the director and founder of It's Unique Families. We are a non-profit organisation, and we support special educational needs families, sometimes known as SEND families or SEND, SEND families, as a unit. And the difference that many people don't understand is you can have a special educational need, which is a SEN, and still have your inclusive family environment around you. And you can also have SEND, which is SEND.
Now what's that?
Which is special educational need and disability.
Right.
And we support families with individuals and young people who have SEN individuals or SEN or carers. And we support as a unit from a global perspective. Because in my experience as a SEN parent, having an individual or a child in a family with a special educational needs has a knock-on effect on anybody and everybody within that household.
Definitely.
And it's important to have a global structure of support, because life in itself is like juggling. But when you are doing that as a carer with multiple children, with multiple needs, depending on your support system and yourself as an individual, your mental health, and your lifestyle can really suffer. And in total, as the parent or carer, that has a knock-on effect on everybody within the household.
And how do you think that would affect you? Like, what would the mental side of that, like from your experience, how did that affect you, and what was put in place for you?
In my personal experience, health-wise, I would say depression, I would say anxiety, panic attacks, confusion and frustration. Because for me, in terms of being able to cope and manage with so much that is unknown, so for me, the process of what I went through with my child and getting his diagnosis was a very patronizing, because it's like I knew what I knew, but when you're being told by professionals things like you're just an overconcerned mother, your child is fine, I've been doing this for 30 years, and you're thinking, well, my child's not reaching certain developmental stage managements, and I'm trying to raise my concern, but when you're consistently shut down, you go through that period of denial, and that can be really frustrating. So then when it is recognized, that frustration is a mental turmoil, because it's like you're seeing something every day and you know that something's not right, but everybody else around you is saying it is right. So it's like, are you living in this world by yourself? Are you the only one
you feel really isolated.
Are you the only one who can see what's going on?
And that has a knock-on effect. So that's going to trigger depression, anxiety, and confusion. And dealing with that every day, and trying to run your house. Of course, it's going to affect your confidence
and self-esteem. Thinking you know what you know, and then being told actually no.
Get shut down.
And that can have a lot of different effects mentally.
Because
then you start to doubt, well, what are you doing? What role do you play in what you can see that's going wrong?
And it's your child, it's your baby, and you're reaching out because you want that support and you know something's wrong, but you're being told you're overprotective and things like that, you know, that comes across really rude as well. Like, that's going to cause confusion. And to me, it just sounds like you've had a constant struggle of fighting. What would you say your timescales were before you saw the light, so to speak?
The first light that I think was a real light for me was when a head teacher didn't sit with my son for 10 minutes before she asked him to be excused, before she said to me, I'm not sure and I can't see it written down here, but I think I can see some other difficulties. Is there? And
oh wow,
I had been shut down so much.
Over a period of what? Months, years?
Years now, because of where I'm coming from educationally. I was aware that my child weren't reaching his milestones from months old.
Yeah.
So are you saying that it wasn't actually a doctor or any of these professionals that you was going to, it's a school teacher that actually recognised?
Not at that point, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So how, like, Mulan said, you know, when she was younger, you know, at that age, like from 2, her mum noticed differences. So her mum was going to get the support. What age did you notice first, just so that everyone can get a picture?
For me, with my son, it was between 0 to 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you started to reach out to who, your GP?
Yes,
Yeah.
my GP was my first point of call.
And you got shut down.
Yeah, my GP just said, you know, every child just develops differently, and he's still an infant, so, you know, we can have another checkup.
Yeah.
But I started to get red flags that, to me, in health should have been red flags also to the health services that I should have been getting at that time, which I was getting, but it wasn't a red flag to them. For example, when you have a baby, you see health visitor, you see midwives, infants and newborns have checks every month.
Yeah.
You know, and even when my son dramatically started dropping down on the percentiles, for me it was like, okay, he took really long to lift up his head, eye contact, he's not on
So
point,
really early
he's
on.
not. Yeah, for me, 0 to 3 months I noticed.
But how did that affect you mentally at that time? Because remember, you've just had a baby. You could
At
have
that
went
time,
into
it's
postnatal
denial.
depression.
Yeah, at that time, it's denial, because it's recognizing them, but it's also making excuses. So you make the excuse that, okay, yes, this child is young, but for me, and I have to say that I'm coming from an educational background where I've studied lifespan development, health and social care. So for me, it's like I've studied these areas of life.
So you
when I
recognise.
realised that it's more than one thing that my child is seem to be in delaying on, for me it's early on red flags. And being told that, well, he's just a baby, and I gave extra reason for that.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's also coming from somebody who, or several other people who have got even more depth of that educational experience that I got, because you are now a health visitor saying the child's fine. You are now a general practitioner, doctor, saying the child's fine. You are not, do you know what I mean?
So that for you at that time, that's where your depression came in, the anxiety and things like that? Or was you still at the confused stage and frustrated?
I wasn't frustrated yet, I was tired.
Yeah.
I wasn't frustrated yet, I was tired. I had an infant that drank 8 ounces every 2 hours, had difficulty weaning, and that every 2 hours was during the night. So I was tired, and I allowed room for the second opinion.
You was open up to it.
Voting with the majority vote of that second opinion, which was the baby's fine, they all develop at different paces.
Which is true, but as a mother, you know, and your background,
that instinct. And I think every mother's got it. You don't necessarily have to have an educational background, but it's the denial and the difficulty
from the professionals.
Just to
When
be
you say
shut down.
denial, do you mean denial as in what's going on in your home with just you and your baby? you noticing it, or is it denied by the doctors?
It's both that takes a mental turn,
Yeah.
because the denial by them is fueling your own denial for yourself.
Yeah, because you think they're actually the professionals. Although you've got
Right.
educational background, maybe you are being a bit overprotective.
And I've just had a baby.
You just had a baby.
So you know what? Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
My hormones are still on over.
Yes, of course they are.
You know, so.
But it's not. I will just say something to that, because I have a son child as well, and he didn't speak to 7. So I'm listening to you, and I actually don't feel alone, because I've not actually spoken to anyone in depth regarding the situation.
Yeah.
And dealing with it on my own. He's now 13, going on 14. However, it took a long time.
Yeah.
So I kind of sympathise with you. I can, have empathy towards you, because it's very difficult.
If you can imagine mentally, I experienced so much different types of mental distress between those initial stages, 0 to 3 months, and 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years of struggling for
7
support.
years.
That impact on you mentally must have been horrendous. Now, how did you get support? You're fighting for your baby, but how did you get support for yourself? Because you said depression, anxiety, confusion, isolation. Where did you go for support for yourself?
Initially, I tried friends and family, and I think that for me, I would say that in terms of even getting where I got to, I got support from somebody else who had been in a similar situation.
Outside of friends and family?
No, friends.
Yeah, friends.
She's a friend. And you know when you have that someone that says to you, like, you're not okay, and it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
But let me help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need that.
Because I felt like I was going mad.
Yeah, you must.
Because I had gone through so much emotions where, first of all, my child doesn't have a difficulty. Then, okay, we're going through the process to find out if he does have a difficulty, which was extremely long-winded, and not, for me, a lot of the processes, even though they explain it to you, they don't explain it to you for what it actually is.
In your language, in your terms that you can understand.
Right.
Yeah, they don't break it down,
And even the importance of an appointment, and everything referred to as therapy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not a therapy appointment, it's actually an assessment appointment.
Yeah.
So it's very important. But where you measure where you've got to do and what you've got to do and the condition your child is in, if your child wants to go through the door for that appointment, or if they're having an episode and then
you can't go, then you miss that appointment.
Then, do you know what I mean? And sometimes, as a parent, even the mental distress in the moment of your child being in a situation where they can't control how they're feeling, what they're doing, and you need to stop and calm them down, and you also need to take time for yourself to pipe yourself down.
Yeah.
And even in learning to do that, for me, it was someone else that actually said to me,
a friend. Yeah. So you didn't go to the GP or a mental health organisation?
I went to the GP.
For yourself as well?
Yeah. I went to the GP for myself, and I was told that there are parenting classes that I can go to, which I found to be a very strenuous experience, because I'll just tell you about it briefly.
The thing is, you're going there because you've got depression, anxiety, and he's telling you need to go parenting classes.
Parenting classes is what I was offered.
And what happened?
At that stage, I was just offered counselling. It was parenting classes that I was referred to, and I attended parenting sessions. And at these parenting sessions, I had gone through so much more than the other peers there that I effectively was sharing information and processes with other parents that the parenting lady who was doing the parenting class, she was not aware of the information that I was aware of via my experience.
So what was the point you being there, really?
And a few classes in, I said, I'm sorry, but I can't do this because there is nobody here who can answer
Yeah.
or help support me where I'm at.
Yeah. So it wasn't helping you, was it?
So I didn't find that helpful at all.
Yeah.
And then that in itself, I think, for me was another distressing point because I felt like it was a waste of my time.
Energy.
I felt like, yeah,